Everybody, it's Annette from the Art of Intuition, and today we are going to focus on what it takes. What does it take to actually do this journey? And this is something that I feel kind of gets pushed out of the side a lot. And let me adjust I'm trying to do a live today, but none of my software is working. So I think it's just not the year for live streams for whatever reason, which might play into this topic today. But I was going to do this on a live, and then everything's wonky, so I was trying to download a new version of it. I think I'm gonna have to just get a new laptop. I think that's probably most of my problems. So anyway, we'll get back to the live streams hopefully in a couple of weeks, because they're a lot easier to process. I do enjoy them a little bit more, but for now we're gonna go just the videos. What does it take? Now, this kind of came up today when I was watching one of my friend's sons, who I'm really close to. She sent me a video of him scoring a goal in his soccer match today. And it just made me think of what it really takes and for to do anything really. But this journey kind of feels like it kind of gets put in this separate thing that you can just kind of do it and it doesn't take a lot, right? Or it's not worth anything, or it doesn't have a value because you don't have to do that much. And it kind of just was reminding me about the conversation I had with, the little boy who got the goal today about, you can't just half it. You have to actually practice. You have to actually try. You can't just you're not going to be good at everything immediately, right? It takes a little bit of effort. But because of the time we're in now, and I'm going to put this for kids, but it goes for all of us, we can kind of look at a lot of different videos you see, and everyone looks like they get it automatically. Like if you watch someone play a video game, it looks like they get it right away because they've edited out all the time they didn't get it. Or if you watch videos, and most of the videos, you probably tell mine aren't edited, but some of the ones look more polished or edited. And they might have taken a couple takes to do it. They didn't get it right away. It's not, you're just seeing the version of that. Same thing when you look at somebody's Facebook, you look at somebody's everything. You're getting a glammed up version of maybe how long it took them to do it. Like I can do a 20 minute video, and from the time I film, and I do stream of consciousness, videos. I don't edit unless I have something massive happen in the middle, like somebody rings the doorbell or something. But I don't edit anything. I just kind of go and that's it. But if you were editing, but it still can take me maybe 4 to 5 hours by the time I get it on the computer, and I do put my bumpers on the end of it and edit out a little bit. Usually I might have to edit a little bit at the beginning because I'm just trying to get the video straight. It takes time. And I think when you start looking at how much time things take, you kind of get a different, you put a different value on it. But for whatever reason, Ascension doesn't have that value to it. And you even can look at, everything just seems to be quick and quick. Everyone wants everything quick. So even if I'll throw one more thing in and then I'll continue. But when you look at the shows where people are doing, I have a friend that likes to watch the true crimes, or if they get the ghost stories and they get the mediums in and all that. And I don't talk too much on that stuff anymore, but a lot of us went through that process where, you're kind of just reading the field, and that's what they're doing. They're reading the field. And I remember my friend was watching it and she was like, oh, look, they get it all 100% right. I'm like, yeah, but they edited out all the time she didn't get it 100% right. You're just seeing the versions where they cut together all the ones she got right. And I don't really like right or wrong, because normally everything you say is right. It just might not be recognized by the person you're talking to. I had a friend once who she was more also into the metaphysical stuff, and in that phase where you're reading people, or you maybe doing tarot, or you're doing all that kind of stuff. We all go through those phases. It helps us connect with metaphysical, helps us connect with other people, makes us feel important because that we can read the field, read the energy, read the cards, whatever it is, pick up what the story is. And I remember she would give a reading and the girl's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And I remember after she's like, she knows exactly what I'm talking about, but she doesn't want to admit it. She knows what I'm talking about, but she's not ready to admit that to herself yet. So there's a lot of that going on too. But it just kind of got me to this place that everything takes time. Even if you look at how much people who play professional sports, how long they just don't go on and start to play that. It takes years and years and years, and knowing that people who play professional sports, how long they practice to do that. How much time they put into it, how much of their day was devoted to that and devoted to that to be able to do it at that level and just compete at that level. So when you look at your ascension process, you have to take all of that, all the time. If you look at the most accomplished person, Olympians and all that, how much time they put into stuff, you take that ascension journey, and your ascension journey is like 100 times more than that. Because it's not just an aspect of your life you're focusing on. You're not trying to be good at one thing, and not to negate how that journey, because that's a massive journey also. You're trying to master yourself, and any situation you're in to be the highest aspect of yourself, and that is not a easy peasy journey. Now, I know I've done a lot of videos where I'll talk about how organic the journey is and how it really is easy. And if we could get out of our own way, it would be easy. If we could get out of our own way, but the problem is what's in our way is in our body. Our cellular programming, our programming in general, our human programming, it's in our body. And because it's in our body, it's causing this interference in a sense. And so we can't anchor in our higher aspects in the beginning. We don't even really know what that is. We're kind of in this battle with one aspect of ourselves to kind of break through all of that. So it's kind of like, I don't even like to use the word battle because it makes it sound like, we're kind of in this battleground. It's like you're battling with yourself, but in a sense you are battling with yourself. In a sense you are trying to figure yourself out, understand why you do the things you do, and then reprogram yourself where you don't do them anymore. Tapping into higher consciousness, not just tapping in to read the field. I mean, that's when you get into mediums, you can get into tarot card readers, you can get into all that stuff, and we all can start in a lot of those places, and I can still pull up a tarot card deck and read the crap out of those cards, but it's just reading the field. Yeah, that's all you're doing. You're just reading the field. You don't need any of that stuff. I mean, I don't need any of that stuff to know what's going on in the field of someone or in my field. But when you're in Ascension, you're not really so much concentrating on what's going on in somebody else's field. You can feel it in the way it's disturbing your own field. But we're so focused on getting our own field to a certain vibration, making sure we're aligning our own realities. We really don't go into someone else's field and start mining around after a while. Like I said, we all go through phases where we do, and there's a purpose for that phase. But after a while, we don't do that anymore because we're 100%, it's a 100 full-time job to just monitor yourself. And you will get to points in your journey where you can start to kind of be in a support role for other people, and you're supporting them. You might be supporting, family, you're supporting friends, you're supporting, and not just blood family and friends, human in that human word, but soul family, galactic family. You're supporting them because you now have gotten to a point within yourself where you do no longer need support, and you can sustain yourself on your own inner light because you've embodied enough of that where you can now use that extra to assist other people. So as we kind of go through that, and as we kind of move through that, you start to kind of understand how much it does take, and how frustrating it can be when you feel like it kind of is not valued as other things that are valued, other professions or whatever. And then we have to kind of work through all of that, because there is this point where, because what we do is not seen as something that can assist someone's external right away. There's a thing about our human consciousness is always going to want to get to what's the external find. Like, what is it going to get me in the external? Because it values itself through the external process. What someone thinks of them, how many things they have, that's the value it gets. And as long as your human consciousness can keep you distracted by the outside, there's no reason to look inside, right? Because everything outside is how we get valued. So there's no reason for you to look anywhere else. It's like that old puppet show. Look over here. Don't look over here. Just concentrate over here. Don't worry about over here because it's a hot mess over here. But you don't need to worry about that. Just look over here. And that's kind of the bait and switch that gets played. Our human consciousness plays it all the time. So because what we do, we work on the field. And it doesn't mean that it does impact your external, but it doesn't impact your external right away. It takes a lot to get your body to a certain vibration where the external really then it starts to kind of people will say it materializes around you. The old will dissolve, the new will come in. But that is not right away because it takes a while for our vibration to get up high enough to where we can now we have a new kind of a home setting in a sense, and then everything's going to reform around us. Now, when you start working with different people and you're helping them or assisting them in raising their vibration or assisting them in working through programming, however you are supporting them, the trick can be, we all have this, and we all had this at one point where we kind of have this feeling that we can take the metaphysical stuff or take our ascension journey and plug it back into our human life and make our human life more successful, right? I'll have more money, I'll have everything I want, but I still have my human life, but I'm going to use everything, all these other things I'm learning through my ascension and the higher consciousness to now just enhance my human life. And when you work with people in the beginning, a lot of it, that's what they want to do. That's why you see so many videos on manifesting and the book The Secret and being able to do your vision board and all that stuff. It's so popular because it's like you can take all these untapped, I'm going to use the word phenomenon. It's really more it just happens anyway. It's really not that supernatural, but in our human consciousness, it is supernatural, right? It's a very supernatural thing to watch all these things start to work. I used to always just show people really simple things they could do with telepathy, which is a human word, but it really gets people's attention just to see how energy works and how to play with it and have fun with it because it just expands people's mind. It opens people up. And then you kind of want to delve deeper into it, right? Because in the beginning it's kind of fun, and then it's not so much fun after a while because for our human world has to change. It just dissolves away. And what you were trying to do, we thought, was to take all that stuff and make our human existence better, and all it did was raise our vibration to the point where our human existence no longer works. And we no longer can set in it because it's not vibrationally a match to our current vibrational body. So now it all has to go. So it starts breaking loose. And when you see people going through it starts breaking loose, they can get kind of despondent with the journey and despondent with what they're, it's almost like it's that song. I've actually been singing this song lately, and it just came to me when I was doing this, that I Never Promised You a Rose Garden. I don't even know how old that song is, but I know it's an old one. And it's kind of true because usually 9 times out of 10, I might even go a 10 out of 10, your old life's going to go. And if you're still studying on your old life and feel like it's all going to stay the same and we're going to ascend our consciousness and embody in our aspects, because when you do that, you're living from a different consciousness. And a consciousness that doesn't give two shits about your human world. It doesn't matter to us. It doesn't have a reason, a purpose. It is a waste of time. It is a waste of energy. It is a waste of all of it. There's another song I heard this week. It was an old song. It's not that old. I guess it was in the 90s maybe. It was an old country song. What kind of fool do you think I am? I heard that on the radio and I was like, oh, I remember this song from back in the 90s. And it came to me, again today when I was doing it. It's another song I've been singing. Because usually when you're in a certain theme, those are the songs that are going to play in your head. It's because eventually you move through that. And that can be, people call it going through a portal, going through a birthing canal. I've heard it explained that way too. Where you're going through all those trials and tribulations. You watch all your old world start to go away. The people that were in that world, they go away normally. Because they're not holding the same consciousness you are. They're disruptive to your field. And it's kind of like this old, I don't know if you ever heard of this, but when you get blood work done, I had human consciousness, but a doctor say, when your blood work starts looking bad, it's not a great sign because your body's not going to pull from your blood until it has to. It's definitely in this kind of preservation mode when it starts messing with your blood. Okay, when these levels get really whacked out, something's going on because it's not going to do that unless it has to. A human example, but you'll get the point in a minute. Same thing with our universe. Our universe will not keep us in anything detrimental. It will pull us out of there. It will not let our field be drained. So the minute we are in anything that is pulling our field, our universe will say, no, no, no. What is most important, we're going to preserve your light. We're going to preserve your field. So we're going to remove you from this situation because it is not supporting you, right? So it kind of acts as that, it's like, we're going to remove you. Okay, we're going to remove you from this. I don't know if that was a great example or not. Maybe it was. We'll keep going. We're going to take you out of here because, we're not going to, your light body will not be compromised. I don't care what has to go. It has no attachment to anything. I don't care if it's a spouse, a child. It does not matter to your universe when it comes to the preservation of your vibrational frequency. Okay, it will remove everything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have an attachment to it. It doesn't have a story around it. Our human does. And that's where we start to run into the problems because our human has a story around it. Our human doesn't like the way it looks. Our human doesn't like the way the Ascension journey looks because it looks so different from, what we thought it was. I always go back when I try to explain certain topics. I'll go back to the cadence of nature. And one thing about nature is it really does kind of explain a lot of what happens in your ascension process. Like when you watch, if a leaf starts to turn brown or yellow or whatever, it's not going to turn green again. It will get removed from the tree and it's going to grow something else, okay? And that's basically what happens in ascension. It's not going to take those human realities and make them work. It's not going to try to turn that brown, rotten leaf into a thriving green leaf in this reality. It can't do that, okay? It's got to shed it, and then it's going to grow something new. Now, could it be similar? Could it be the same people, just different aspects of those people? Of course, that happens quite a bit in the journey. I do think at some point, though, unless the people in your journey when you started are actively working on their consciousness journey and doing the inner work, eventually they can only hold for so long because you're just going to get too your frequencies would be too different. You just kind of go on two different paths at that point, and you can't come back and you can't go back to where you were. And if they're moving through, it's not their time yet to go through their full-fledged ascension journey, and they're just kind of maybe using you. They're ticking up a little bit here as their frequency goes, and they are moving at a pace, but not at your pace. Because when it is your time, you will go through a lot of this, what it feels like breakneck speed. Now, when you're in it, it feels slow. But when you look back on it, you're like, oh shit, I really went through that fast. When you think of how long it took in your human life to do stuff, how long in your human life it took to transition to do something, how long your certain stages lasted in your human development, and then you look at your ascended development and you're like, wow, I thought it was a long time, but then I look at, wow, look how much everything shifted in 6 months or a year or 4 years or 5 years or 8 years. There's 7-year cycles, there's 21-year cycles, there's all of the 10-year cycles, and you can kind of look and go, wow, it's really changed a lot. And even though in the moment it felt slow, because it feels slow because we want it to change. You're going to be parts of your ascension journey where you want it to change, you want it to change, you want it to change, but it's not changing. Because one, as soon as we want it to change, it won't change, because usually we just kind of, we don't really want to deal with 100% of what's going on. Until you don't care if it changes, you're okay to sit here, you're happy with the reality, that's when it shifts. Because there's no purpose in the current one anymore. If you're happy with it and it's kind of going on and you've come to peace with it, maybe that's another way to see it. You've come to peace with the role you're playing in it. And you have a purpose, you can see the purpose. Normally by the time you can see the purpose, you're pulling out of the reality, because you now reach a consciousness to kind of look back on it and see it for why you were there. And whenever you're looking back on it, you can look at it as looking down on it in a sense. You're looking at it from a different consciousness. And when you can start to clearly see that, then you can start to see it start to fade away. Because you're now above that consciousness. You're now in a different timeline in a sense, where some of it might stay, it might shift around you, it might, and when I say it might shift around you, that's another part of this. When we talk about all the hard work it takes, sometimes we have to shift it. We can look at something and go, oh, this isn't supporting me. I need to make this support me. And that's what a lot of what this whole last year has been. It's been redoing the house. It's been redoing the yard. It has been planting new grass. It's been learning about all this stuff. I never learned how to plant grass. I never really knew how to. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but it kind of a lot goes into it. And you start to see and understand, like, oh, there's a lot for me to do here. Oh, there's a lot I got to do here. But we have to do it. You know, I see a lot of people waiting for something to shift, but they don't really want to do anything to get it there. But we have to make sure when we see something's out of alignment, we put it back into alignment. If something is annoying me, it is not supporting my frequency. Now, it is supporting my frequency in the sense it is bringing up that annoyance. It's supporting my frequency in a sense for me to say, hey, that doesn't work for me anymore. That's bothering me. I got to go fix that. I got to do this whole yard revamp is what I was doing this year, and repainted all the yard ornaments. When I went crazy with it because it wasn't supporting me. So I had to do all this stuff, planting trees, and I'm going to get into my fall grass planting soon as in a couple more weeks, because things need to be at a certain vibrational frequency, and we have to get them there. And there is some of it that's organic, and I talk a lot about it. A lot of it's an organic process, but you got to make sure you're not fighting the process. And that's when we talk about the time it takes and the effort it takes to not want to go back, you know, and eventually that song will come into play where it's like, you don't even feel tempted to go back. It's like, what kind of fool do you think I am? I'm not falling for that again. There's no carrot. There's no pot of gold. There's none of that stuff in the human realities. And you start to see that. And sometimes you'll even be exposed to different stages of the human existence. You know, you might be around babies a lot. Then all of a sudden you might be around older people a lot. You might be around people who are getting ready to transition out through death. And you start to see, especially if you knew them their most of their life, and you see their human journey and what they went through, and how it kind of all gets stripped away at the end anyway. And it's almost like all that, and there's nothing at the end. You know, if they cultivated their mind, and that was their big thing, and at the end when they start going through ascension, even if their ascension process is to pull away and through death and go back and ascend again in a different body, in a different space and time, maybe they lose all their memories. They all of a sudden they can't remember anything. So all that cultivating of the mind, the human mind, doesn't matter anymore. You know, the cultivation of the physical body, all of a sudden that's degrading, and maybe everyone around them, all the relationships they had, they're all gone, and you start to see. I don't want to call it a waste, because there was for a long time the purpose of the human journey, but when you start to look at it from a different consciousness, you kind of can see that it feels like a waste. And all the worrying and stress and all that especially when you see people in different stages of their life and all that they had gone through to get to certain points, and now it just all seems for nothing. And it seems like it's just this, you don't feel like you're missing anything. Maybe that's another way to say it. You look at it and you're like, wow, I really am not missing anything. There might be parts of the journey where you're like, oh yeah, I wish I could just be oblivious again. And maybe I could just be back in that, or, you know, get back with that ex and forget about all the trauma and the problems. But you can't. You know, you can't go back in. It's not like the Matrix where you can just take one of the pills and forget about it and go back in. It just doesn't work that way. It takes everything you have, and it'll continue to take everything you have, because we're the ones that create the new realities. If we don't act on what we see, if we don't see something and we know it's not aligned, we have to do that. You know, if you're in the reality, normally you're going to be the highest consciousness person in that reality, and it's on us to align it. And that does not mean everyone's going to be happy with it. You know, we get a lot into people who used to be people pleasers and want to make sure everybody's happy. And we can think for a while that we're doing that for a service for people, like we're really we're supporting people. But we kind of have to look at that, because pleasing people is not supporting people. it's making it easier so no one's mad at us. You know, it comes back to us. If you can bring it back to you, it's more aligned with your ego than it is with your higher aspects, because it should be supporting someone's journey, not supporting their human ego, not supporting their human lack tendencies. I mean, what are we supporting? Sometimes if we're trying to please someone, we might be trying to make something easier, but is that really supporting them? Do they need that to not be easy? Maybe we're trying to make it too easy. If you make it too easy, then now we're not really supporting them. We're just kind of putting a Band-Aid on something. We're not really giving them what they require to really do what their soul needs to do. So we need to start to look at that. And there's so many different parts and pieces you're going to be faced with and looking at, pulling apart. So when you see someone who acts like this is a flippant journey, or it's just so easy, it's not easy. It's the hardest thing you're going to do, because you have to align every part of your life with higher consciousness, not just one part, not just the part of you don't really care that much about, or these people you really don't have these deep relationships with. It's every part. And you could be cutting everyone out of your existence for a long time. And you might be in reality by yourself for many, many, many years. And there's nobody really there. you know, just you. Because you're trying to get your frequency to a point where you can now step into realities with other people again. But you'll find that when you're stepping into realities with other people, and their human consciousness is still their go-to consciousness when shit hits the fan, you don't really want to be there anymore. And that can be, you know, kind of sad for our human, because then we don't know really where we belong. Because the things we like to do, we don't really enjoy anymore. They feel like they don't have the purpose. And you kind of see the wastefulness of a lot of it. So we kind of have to build our own realities and be focused on stuff that other people in our human consciousness won't understand. But you can look at what they're doing and you can go, gee, I don't understand that, because that's just a waste of your time. And they might not know yet it's a waste of their time. They can't see that yet. Now, technically they're learning. Technically they're going through experiences to clear things in their body. So waste of time, take that with quotation marks. It's not a waste of time for where they are right now, but if you look at the whole human journey in general, and people, how we try to hold on to ours, how everyone tries to keep holding on to it, that is a waste of time. Trying to hold on to it, trying to just take a pinky and just keep grabbing onto a sinking ship, or I don't know how many analogies can we use, you know, just anything, you know, just to keep it going for one more day. There's no point to it. It is a waste of time. It is a waste of time. So, all right. Just like I said, this is a little longer because I was going to do all this in a stream, but okay. Keep practicing the art of intuition.